Today, I want to share 5 goals to hit before you retire. Because after 16 years of being a retirement advisor, a common question that we get is, how can I be sure that I'm actually ready to retire now? And here's the truth. Most people focus just on the money. Once they get that figured out and they have enough, they believe that they can retire. And yes, that's true. That's a huge piece of the puzzle, but that's just one piece. So today I'm going to share the 5 goals you must hit before you're ready to retire. And we'll go over the one thing that matters more than your 401k balance, and then also why successful people struggle the most in retirement, and then also the relationship strategy that happy retirees swear by. These aren't just theories. These come from helping hundreds of families move into retirement over the last 2 decades. So let's dive in. Here's the interesting thing. Some of the unhappiest retirees, they've got one thing in common, and it might not be what you think. The retirees who really struggle the most aren't the ones with the least money. They're the ones who are isolated. And that's what nobody warns you about, right? Once work ends, your relationships often take a nosedive too. So goal number 1 is strengthen up those relationships before you retire. Because think about it. How many of your current friendships are built around work, right? The colleagues that you go grab lunch with, or the team that you chat with by the coffee machine, the work friends that you text about what you're doing on the weekend. Because when you retire, those daily touch points, those vanish overnight or almost overnight. And research backs this up too. Studies show that retirees lose an average of 25% of the social connections within their first 2 years of retirement. And that's why I tell my clients, you can't wait until retirement to build those relationships outside of work or find those new groups that you're going to be a part of. So here's the action step for this. Start now. Think about those special people from your past, maybe old friends that you've drifted apart from since college or when you were younger, or maybe neighbors that you used to be close with and you moved, or family members that you haven't talked to in years. I know it might feel awkward to reach out after 10 or 15 or 20 years of not talking to someone, but I've done this myself recently, and 100% of the time, they're actually happy to hear from me, thankfully. But here's the thing. Retirement gives you something precious that working life doesn't, and that's the time to actually nurture these relationships that truly matter. Let's move on to goal number 2, and that is when you retire, you're going to have more time in one day than you currently have probably in the entire work week, right? More free time. And think about it. Right now, after your commute, your work, getting ready, and maybe 2 to 3 hours of free time on the weekends. In retirement, you've got 16 waking hours every single day to decide what to do with. So that's 168 hours a week to fill. So the goal is have a life plan, not just a financial plan. And here's the action step here. It's why I like creating this idea of life buckets, or maybe these little time segments of retirement. Think about them maybe in 5 years. It's not a bucket list of things to do before you die, but really just specific goals you want for the next 5 years, 60 to 65, 65 to 70, and so on. Write down the things and maybe some of the major accomplishments or goals or things that you want to do. A lot of people, they think about travel in their 60s and 70s when they're young, and they can move and they could walk these cities that they want to explore. Now, the third goal is important because your biggest retirement challenge won't be financial. It's going to be figuring out who you are when you're not working and when your career identity goes away. In 16 years of helping people retire, I've watched strong, successful people, especially men, they completely lose themselves in retirement, right? After 30 or 40 years of carrying the responsibility and meeting the deadlines and the team goals, work becomes who we are, but you're so much more than your job title. So goal number 3 is identify or know your identity beyond work. And here's the action step. Here's where most people get stuck. They can't imagine what they'd actually enjoy doing with all their free time. And that's where vacation becomes your testing ground. So if we're still working before we retire, a lot of people don't use their vacation time, but we should be using all of the vacation time. Actually, from what I've read, half of Americans don't use their full vacation.